It's that magical time of year where things get churning, people start coming and going within the transfer portal, and such is the case for Auburn football just as their regular season ends. Let's talk about the early exits through the transfer portal for Auburn and what it means for them. Welcome to the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks. Our content here, it may tend to be Auburn sports heavy, but if it's orange and blue, it's what we do. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe so you never miss any content. And thank you to members of our booster club, like Doug Easom, who helped produce content like this. We all knew it was coming, and we all knew it was going to happen. Several players have already decided very quickly after the season ended to enter the transfer portal and seek other opportunities elsewhere. Now, I will remind you, while it may be a very small chance, there is the opportunity for them to decide to come back. I don't expect that with these particular players, but there's always that outside chance. Also, we're not going to be really talking about the big one that everyone is wondering about, and that being Bo Nix, with his comments earlier on in the week suggesting that he's still considering all options, staying, going somewhere else through the transfer portal, or even going pro. There's not really much to go off of that point. We can only speculate, and I'm sure he's got a lot of thinking about. But let's discuss the 5 players as of this video that had decided to enter the transfer portal. 5 total, 3 on offense, 2 on defense. And you got to wonder if the 3 on offense are in a result of the firing of Mike Bobo. When you look at them, when we talk about them, you're probably going to say, probably not, because these happened after the fact, and it wasn't like there was this big difference that Mike Bobo was making for any of these particular players. These guys aren't stars that flourished under him and now that are upset that he's going to be gone. I think this is just people trying to find the best opportunity for them to further their careers. Also, 2 of these players, those being 5th-year seniors, are going to have that extra year of eligibility from the NCAA because of the COVID-19 year. So you can't really blame them for seeking the best opportunity for that extra year that they're going to have. So let's dive right into these players, and I've kind of ranked them. Again, when I do a ranking like this, it's not because I'm saying that you're less than or you're greater than. It's just me kind of thinking about the overall impact of the loss of this particular player in what Auburn needs right now. So let's start at the quote-unquote bottom with number 5, Caleb Johnson, the junior defensive lineman. Now, I don't know why, but I have it in my mind that last offseason he flirted with the transfer portal and he was gone and then he came back. I'm probably wrong on that, but for some reason that is in my mind. But he's a guy that saw some rotation early this year with the rest of the edge rushers, the defensive linemen, but the play time really lacked as the season went on, especially in the last few games. He even had to sit out for an undisclosed issue, whether that be injury, whether that be academics, disciplinary things, but was able to rejoin the team later on. When these type of things happen, it kind of makes sense why somebody might decide to do something different, go somewhere else if they've already had issues within the program that you don't even know about. We can only speculate at what those issues are, but I'm sad to see some depth go at the edge rusher position, which we do need, but Caleb Johnson, unfortunately, didn't see a lot of time, and so I don't know that the impact of this loss is going to affect Auburn as much as the other ones we're going to talk about. Number 4, sophomore wide receiver Elijah Canyon, the one-hit wonder in the bowl game. We all fell for it, and I warned myself, I warned you all, even when I did that video about who was going to have the biggest impact wide receiver position for Auburn at the very beginning. I even put him up there as like a number 1. And here we are at the end of the season, and he barely saw any time and no play in SEC play. That's not to say that Elijah Canyon is not an extreme talent. We saw that in the one bowl game. But talent doesn't necessarily mean it's a good mesh for the team, and that's obviously the case here, with him not seeing much playtime under this coaching regime. He's going to seek opportunities elsewhere, and while it does hurt the depth at this position, I think there's plenty of talent to go around where it's not going to affect us too badly. 2 and 3 are kind of interchangeable, but this is just kind of how I'm feeling about this moment. So for number 3, I'm going to say senior offensive lineman Shaun Manning. Now, you've been here on this channel, you know that I have just discussed how lacking our offensive line play has been into the ground, and I'm not going to bore you with that, but I do think that there is some value in the depth that Shaun Manning provided at offensive lineman. Now, remember, he came as a defensive tackle prospect and then switched over to offensive lineman, won the starting job for 2 seasons, lost it to Brandon Council, came back in and filled for him this season when he was hurt. So it's been a back and forth time for him. So you can imagine he's probably looking for a little bit more stability in his last part of his career, for his 5th year. If you look at stats and grades, a lot of people say that he graded out well in the run block as opposed to the pass block, and that's maybe why we didn't see him in there, because there was a need to pass block better. I don't know, really. I'm not going to get into grades and stats and things like that. I'm just talking about depth right here. And even though he wasn't a starter, he was somebody that you really probably needed to kind of provide not too much of a drop-off, even though the expectations for the offensive line as a whole was pretty low. It will hurt the Tigers in trying to rebuild and revamp that offensive line, because even though he's been here through a part of an offensive line tenure that hasn't been good, you still need someone there to kind of carry on to the next generation. Number 2, sophomore defensive back Ladarius Tennyson. This guy came on fire in the last part of the season here, making excellent plays on special teams and on the defensive backfield. He was the backup to Zion Puckett and filled in for him when he was injured, but quickly that time went away when Zion was able to play again. So you can understand why he would want to go seek other opportunities where he can play a little bit more quickly with probably Zion and other players ahead of him in the depth chart. I think it's a really big loss because I love these guys that play a main position on offense or defense but go all out on special teams. I think there's something to be said about that, you taking every opportunity that you get to make a difference. And you see players like Jarquez Hunter doing that a lot too, where he plays as a main running back, but also as a special teams player. I think Ladarius Tennyson is going to be one of the bigger impacts losing in terms of depth at the defensive backfield, something that was a big shock at how lacking it was outside of Roger McCreary and a few bright spots with others. And you all knew this one was coming. Number 1, the biggest impact and loss for the Auburn Tigers is Shaun Shivers. Now, this may not be in terms of overall production, but in terms of the love that Shaun Shivers has within the Auburn family. And while he is leaving, you can definitely tell this is one that is really not on a bad note or anything like that. He has really got that last 5th year of eligibility and needs to go find himself a place where he can probably be a more of a feature back, because his time has waned here at Auburn with the emergence of Jarquez Hunter and him missing a few games. His time continued to slip, and they continue to struggle to find roles where he could fit in. I even saw him at the wideout position a couple of times in a few sets. That was a little bit confusing, but hey, he's a talent. You need to get him out there and use him in any way that you can. I will miss that little wrecking bowling ball of fury because he was one of my favorite players, if not my favorite player on this team. I wish him the best of luck, and we definitely will miss his presence and the ability that he has to break a game open at that position. And that's why he's my number 1 loss out of the transfer portal so far. So that's all my thoughts on the transfer portal. 5 total players, 3 on offense, 2 on defense so far. And the big question out there, will Bo Nix transfer? We'll have to wait and see on that one. But in the meantime, I want to know from you, who is the biggest loss for you out of the 5 players thus far that you think Auburn will miss the most? We will miss them all because we'd hate to see anybody leave the Auburn family, but sometimes these things are necessary for the benefit of Auburn, but also for the benefit of the players themselves. If you enjoy this type of content, please help support it by smashing that like button. And if you want more ways to help support our content, you can check out links in the description. One of those being becoming a channel member by hitting that join button. You can even become a Booster Club member. They both start at $1 a month, those things. But if you want to check out both of those, you can. They offer different opportunities for perks and such. Thank you for tuning into the E2C Network, where the Auburn family speaks. War Eagle.